Does anyone have questions on the bus service? Yep.
Gentleman there.
This isn't a question, it's just a comment really. But back in, soon after local government reorganisation in 1974, when I was working for Chelmsford Borough, which was then the Highway Authority, we did a survey on buses down Baddow Road. I can remember I was personally involved in it. And we were looking at that time about the punctuality and the delay to buses. And we did a study during the morning peak. And the net result of all that was that the actual delay was about 5 minutes per bus at worst. And that to do anything that would actually improve the buses would mean a completely unacceptable deterioration in travel times for everybody else. And as for this suggestion that everybody's going to use the bus and nobody's going to divert down Baddow Bypass or through Moulsham Lodge, words fail me.
Yeah, I mean, the simple fact is that as someone who travels down Baddow Road, I don't travel down Baddow Road if I can avoid it. Putting a bus gate in is not going to do anything to me because I avoid it where I can. The people who are travelling down Baddow Road are doing so because there really is no other viable route. Any more questions? So that's a comment on the 45, which has also been cut.
Lady in the, excuse me.
Is there any consideration to the park and ride buses that will get caught in the traffic, that's the increased traffic going down the bypass? Although there's the bus lane, when it gets down there, they're going to get caught in the slip road and the punctuality of those is going to suffer.
Yep, that's a comment on the Sandon Park and Ride, which could possibly be delayed as a result of Busgate. It's not just a result of Busgate, there's also the hazards that are going up in Sandon. All the traffic going onto the Malden Slip Road, through Malden Road, onto the bypass, actually has to give way to traffic coming from Malden and Danbury. So what you're going to have is you're building 500 new houses there, you've got the park and ride, all of which gets priority going onto that slip road. You're going to have traffic queuing all through Vineyards Village, basically. That's very late.
Gentleman there.
You can't even get out of Heath Drive now. The traffic down, I live in Street, but I now have to take my daughter to college. She cannot get on the bus. It can't get out of Heath Drive. The traffic down Gloucester Avenue is ridiculous already, before the bus gate has even gone in. My concern is, one, the children can't get off the bus to get to school, but the bus can't physically get down the road because of the car parking as well as the traffic. Safety of the children.
That's one of the knock-on effects that's going to affect you even more than you realise. First Bus lobby Essex County Council directly. They are a commercial company. They lobby Essex County Council directly over traffic regulation orders, and which are your parking enforcement, you know, your double yellow lines and stuff like that. So if First Bus have a problem, which is already appearing now, where they can't get round there, the next thing you're going to find is they will lobby Essex County Council about putting parking restrictions in on that bend. So, it follows, because it's been done across the city. I promise you, it's happened in other areas across the city. First Bus has lobbied Essex County Council over double yellow lines. They've been installed, and in one place in the city, guess who parks on the double yellow lines now? First Bus.
And they don't get fined for it, their tickets are overturned. Yep.
The other point is, it's not just houses here, because Malden is virtually landlocked by Chelmsford. They have plans to build many houses. In fact, between 2001 and 2016, they built over 2,500 houses. Now, if one of those houses, each one of those houses has got one car, and you put them bumper to bumper, that's 7.5 kilometres of cars. Now, that affects us as well. So it's not just an isolated problem of Chelmsford, it's the whole county. And there doesn't seem to be anybody in charge of the whole county. Each city is being, little town, is being told, you've got this target to meet. You do it, otherwise we will send in inspectors and your planning department will go. And of course no one in the planning departments want to lose their jobs. And the local government association said a lot about that not so long ago. This is a huge mess up.
We're going to move on to issues
okay.
of no, because you raise important points.
Yeah.
And we're going to discuss the traffic flow in a minute, and I think it'll be interesting. And we're going to discuss some of the developments that are going on. Exactly what you're talking about. But just specifically for buses, has anybody else got any issues?
There's a gentleman green at the back.
Can we-
His hand up. I don't know whether he still wants to.
But basically, First Bus hold them hostage. They are holding them hostage, just like Carillion with the contracts. They sign up to these contracts, and if First Bus, I can tell you, in 2017, the CEO of First Bus said that he would not provide the Euro 6 buses to cities that are not bus friendly. Full stop. And I think there's only 2 cities across the country that are considered bus friendly. So if the city's not putting in fast routes for buses, double yellow line so they can go where they want, turn where they want, they're not going to provide the Euro 6 buses. We've got some interesting stuff that we got from Smart Traffic at Cambridge about buses, and some ideas that we would like some input on from you later, but we're going to put that as like an alternative ideas of stuff that's come up from people that we've been speaking with. I think that's
I was just going to say that the new 57 bus I got last week with my son in a pushchair. 2 pushchairs could fit on that bus. There was not access for people with mobility issues, wheelchairs who they're encouraging to use the bus. They should have thought about bigger, more accessible buses that don't just have loads of seats. It was rammed full, and that this is what they supplied us with instead of the smaller buses, which were much better for bigger items going on the bus.
Yeah, and we do actually have some. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
The comment there was the 57 bus tried to get on the bus with a pram. There was already 2 prams on there. It was standing room only. There was no room for anyone else with a pram or a wheelchair or any mobility issues to get on the bus. And this is one of the things they're trying to say. You've got to start using the buses. Now, obviously, for most people, getting on the buses at the best of times isn't very good. They're packed. For people with mobility issues, prams, the buses simply aren't fit for purpose. And we do actually have some suggestions on how we think the bus service should be changed at the end of the presentation, which we'll raise later. Any more questions on buses?
There's one
Yep.
here.
Seems to me there's a simple answer to this. Diverting the traffic down Midgate Avenue and out onto the bus lane and out onto the road.
Yep, that's the suggestion there is that one of the simple answers is to divert the buses down Meadgate Avenue and directly onto the bus lane on the bypass. Now, as much as I would like to say it's a great idea, we hate the fact they're not thinking of it. We have actually spoke to them on that, and we do know the reasons why. It is purely an engineering reason. It's to do with the height of the bypass and the height of the road. The gradient that they would have to put in would actually make it impossible to run buses up there. So it is unfortunately an engineering one. We can't actually say, yeah, they're just ignoring that idea. They have looked into it, and it is purely an engineering issue.
It seems to be only about a 4-foot difference in height, though.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Doesn't seem impossible to get over that problem. And the road is wide enough to put the bus lane down. It's only about 9 buses an hour at the maximum.
And that may be a point worth raising. I mean, we have discussed it, it has been brought up, we have been given a reason. We've not looked too deeply into that because we don't really have the background to disprove that. Of course, like I said earlier, everything they tell you, don't believe it. We've proven most of the things that they've said are false. It may well be that is. Unfortunately, we don't have the expertise. So if there is anyone here who knows about that and knows of engineering and can give reasons how that could be possible, we would like to hear them.
Continue with that just for a moment. I did receive a reply from the council member, and he said, he seems, I'll read out what he said.
You've got a microphone.
Do you mind, sir? Do you mind coming up?
I can probably read through this.
The answer he replied was the proposal would effectively remove one arm of the roundabout during peak hours, the hours with the worst congestion, which would make the roundabout more effective as traffic from Baddow Bypass and Van Diemen's Road would be able to get to the roundabout more easily. The point I think he's making there is he wants to close the roundabout from one arm of the roundabout. And I think that's really what his main idea is.
Yeah, and that is the crux of it. The idea behind the bus gate is not just to give the buses exclusive access to that route, it's actually they maintain that it's going to improve the flow on the roundabout. They maintain that traffic coming from Baddow Road is causing a bottleneck. We do actually cover that in the next section on traffic flow, and again we've got some figures on that we will hopefully disprove it. Yep.
I did mention this idea of taking buses out through Meadgate onto the bus lane on Baddow Bypass when there was the consultation at the parish hall.
Yep.
And I spoke to one of the officers about that. They said that there was a difference in height, as you have mentioned, but that could be dealt with if you tapered it right back to the junction with Meadgate itself. But that's more expensive. But the main issue, apparently, is the radius that you need to get a long bus to swing round. It can't swing round in the bus lane itself. It would sort of need an arc into one of the two lanes leading down to the Army and Navy itself, one of the non-bus lanes, in order to have a radius to swing. That was their story at that time. That doesn't mean it's right.
Okay, so that's an example of the conflicting information. We've been told one thing, another gentleman's been told something else. Now, the point he's making there is that he's been told it can't be done because of the size of the buses and the room they need to manoeuvre. Now, one of the suggestions we have got later is actually to do away with the big buses on the inner city runs and replace them with more frequent, smaller hopper-style buses, which would discount that and potentially make that a viable option. Again, you need to be, when the public consultations happen, if you contact Councillor Benson, that is something that needs to be raised with him. And we will make a note of that and we will raise that as well and see what response we get. One final question. Okay, so there we have yet another one. And this is exactly what we've been dealing with throughout. This is a prime example of them coming up with different excuses not to do it. Now, we've actually found that the main excuse seems to be for everything. Nothing's impossible, not in this day and age. The main reason seems to be they simply do not want to spend the money. We have got a topic later on, which is on funding, where money for infrastructure funding comes from and where it goes to. So hopefully you'll see their argument that there's no money is actually not true, and it's just that they don't want to spend it. So that's it for buses. So we're now going to move on to the bit that most of you will probably have comments on, and this is the traffic flow. So this is the third and final major reason they're giving for the viability of BUSGATE. So that's what the Army and Navy looks like at the moment. Now, the main issue they're saying is that by closing Baddow Road, it will make the whole Army and Navy flow better. This is their public statement, this is what they've said, why they want to do it. Traffic from Baddow Road only accounts for 7% of all the traffic on the Army and Navy. That is in both directions. So if you say half, you're saying 3.5% coming off of the Army and Navy onto Baddow Road, 3.5% going on. The figures probably aren't exactly right because obviously more's going to be going on in the morning and more's going to be coming off in the evening. But realistically, you're probably talking at less than 5% of the traffic on the roundabout is from Baddow Road. Question yet?
Yeah, in a survey in 2017 conducted by Ringway Jacobs, they showed that 9% of the traffic came down Baddow Road and went on to the Army and Navy. I've got the complete report of that. They sent it to me, and I've looked at all the figures. So it's not going on and off because they've got a matrix which shows where things go. What it shows is that in the mornings, in peak hours, that about 50%, which comes down Baddow Road, goes into the centre of the town. 33% goes up over into Chelmer Village. Now, that's and between 8 and 9, there's 434 vehicles, and between 9 and 10, 509 vehicles.
Let's just move on.
You know,
I
so-
don't
so,
want
you know,
to
I
shut
just
you down.
wanna-
Let's move on a little bit, because what we've done is we've done our own counts, and we've done our own survey of nearly 1,000 responses as to where you will go. And I think
Yeah.
in a minute that will all start to make sense. Let Andy try and give the figures that we came up with, and then I think it'll be useful for your interaction once we've done that.
So, first of all, closing Baddow Road will not actually close it to traffic. You'll still have buses, you'll still have motorcycles, you'll still have taxis. I suspect that the taxi use will actually increase because people will see that as the next best way of getting down Baddow Road. So you're still going to have traffic coming down there. The other issue we've got is that the figures used in the public document that was sent out last summer are completely and utterly pie in the sky. All of the figures they've based their traffic counts on actually come from 2011 up to 2016. What they've done is they've counted traffic every weekday in October. So the net effect of that, they've then averaged it out and said, we had all them figures up, we divide them out, that's your daily traffic count. Now the first issue is traffic back in 2011, much lower than it is now. So straight away that drags their figures down. The second issue is they chose October, which rather conveniently has a half term, which again drags their figures down. We've actually looked at their figures and we've done our own traffic counts. We've had people standing down the road counting vehicles during the peak hours, and we've actually got the traffic down there on an average day, not a school holiday, almost 50% higher than what they're saying. Now, like we say, we also did a survey. The other figure they're using is they're saying the traffic count is 300 as a ballpark figure. I think it's 338 they use in their document. They're then saying that if they put BUSGATE in, they believe that 12% of that traffic will go via Loftin Way, and I think it's 28% via Malden Road onto the bypass. We actually questioned that figure and said, how did you come up with that figure? They put some numbers in a computer and that's what it told them. That is it. They've done no surveys, they've not asked people's opinions, they've got some GPS data, which I assume is tracking phones, using cameras to guess, but essentially that is their guess. We actually carried out a survey, which some of you here may have filled in, asking people on Baddow Road, if it closes, where will you go? We actually got 30, can we go on to the next slide? I think, there we go. Sorry, go back one. So, Loftin Way, we counted 438 vehicles using Loftin Way during a peak hour in the morning, and that count was only done last week. We anticipate that based on our traffic count down Baddow Road, and the percentage we got of 34.9% will actually use Loftin Way, which is very different from their 12%. We got it as 165 extra vehicles an hour. Their document said it would be 38. That's a big difference. That's based on their much lower count and their much lower percentage. So we've got no faith in their figures. All of the figures they are using should not be almost 10 years old. They should be using up-to-date figures during non-school time. Just to put that into perspective, that means that going down Loftin Way after BUSGATE, we're anticipating a vehicle every 6 seconds, and that is just going in one direction. That is going from Beehive Lane down, not coming the other way. So that's a school route, it's a residential run. We know what the traffic's like down there now. You think extra 165 vehicles, it's ill-thought, it is ridiculous. Now, the other key pinch point is Malden Road, which is the next slide. Again, we looked at the figures there, which are completely at odds with theirs. We count 405 vehicles an hour down Malden Road during peak hours. We anticipate 157 extra vehicles based on our survey, which tells us 34.9% of people will divert down that road. That works out a vehicle every 7 seconds on a narrow road with a pavement below the legal minimum required standard, where two vans cannot pass each other, where you have doors opening directly into the road. It's I mean, as far as we are concerned, if we can go on to the next slide, we believe that's a fatality waiting to happen. And the frequency there, you've got a school there. There is no pavement, there is no crossing area there. People have to use that narrow pavement. I've been down there with my pram pushing my child. You cannot push a pram down that road. And this is what ECC are saying is acceptable. They're saying that these risks are worth it to improve the queuing time on the Army and Navy roundabout. So that's it. So we're obviously now going to open up to questions. It looks like we've got our first one at the back in yellow. It may well be. That is an opinion. That is our opinion. Scaremongering.
What happened with the HGV that crashed into the parish ramp recently?
Yep.
And we're going to be having HGVs and bigger vehicles going down there.
I would like to stress that is scaremongering. That is our opinion. What I put up there are facts based on our research. My interpretation of them is that, and that is scaremongering. But it's also scaremongering in the same way that Essex County Council is saying pollution is a problem. We've shown the facts that it isn't. That is them scaremongering. Okay, maybe we shouldn't take that tax, but we're putting the information up there and giving our opinion on it. Next question.